It's a pleasure to meet you.
You too.
Uh, Happy to have you on here.
Yeah,
Um,
appreciate it.
I'm happy to jump right into it. And a little tip-off question I like to ask everyone is, what have you been listening to lately?
That's a good question. Um, oh, um, hmm. Well, had a long drive. We played a show in Oakland this weekend, so I'm trying to think
Mhm.
of what I listened to on the way up. Um, uh, Krallis, a lot of Krallis. Do you know Krallis?
I do not.
Um, they're a really amazing, I guess, I mean, they're metal, sort of weird black metal band from
Sure.
Brooklyn.
Nice.
Um, I fucking love them. They're amazing. Um, Listen to some Krallis, Tim Hecker,
Hmm.
um, Dem Dyke Stare. Do you know them?
I do not
Like
know them either.
electronic band from pretty sure they're English. Um, but really, really interesting. Rhythmically, it's very interesting, and things sort of teeter and fall in on themselves, and
Sure.
new rhythms sort of constantly appear, which is it's really cool. Um, what else?
I feel like Tim Hacker
Lo-fi's.
makes a lot of sense, especially with a lot of the music you put on under Human Potential. I can see some Tim Hacker floating in there a little bit.
Yeah. He's one of my favorites, man.
Yeah.
I've I really like seeing him. I've seen him live maybe like six
Hmm.
times. Um, which is great because it's sort of the antithesis of like a rock and roll show. It's just
Yeah.
have you seen him?
I have not seen him. I've always wanted to.
It's just he's just up on or wherever he is on stage or wherever, but he just like clouded in this in fog. There's like always like a fog machine, so you can
Mhm.
you can like barely see him, and sometimes it's just I've seen him where it's just like a couple candles, and then recently he's been doing sort of this um more intricate lighting design behind him, but yeah, it's just like the frequencies, this like the subs are so, I mean, they just like rattle
Sure.
your
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it
bones.
seems like an intense performance.
Yeah, it is. It's great. Yeah. What
Um,
about you? What have you been listening to?
so what have I been listening to? I'm I've been recently going down memory lane just because I was just at the Best Friends Forever festival.
Okay.
Um, which is just I've just been digging back into a lot of that, post-hardcore emo like from the early 2000s, late 90s, and it's been a joy digging back into a lot of that stuff.
Cool.
Um, Hell of a festival. It was awesome.
Nice.
Um, yeah, a lot of like Rainer Maria and
Oh, sure.
Jawbox played. They were pretty awesome.
Oh, really? Nice.
Great. Yeah.
Cool.
Um, but in terms of I guess what you've been listening to, another thing we do is every episode I have the guests kind of recommend a song to add to this continuous playlist that we're building. So any maybe there's a song from any of the artists you just mentioned, but we're just kind of building a playlist every episode. We add another one. So is there anything you want to add to that playlist?
Any song,
Literally any song you want to recommend.
not like necessarily my favorite song, but any song.
And any song. Maybe it's something
Um,
you're digging right now. Maybe it's just something you think is like essential listening for anyone.
there's a song by Caetano Veloso called
Okay.
If You Hold a Stone.
Okay.
Um, it's he recorded it like he was like exiled from Brazil and he lived in England for a little bit in the early 70s. Um, but uh it's this cyclical song. They're only, maybe 20 words. It's like if you hold a stone, hold it in your hand. If you feel the weight, you won't be late to understand. And it's just like
Wow.
repeats for maybe 5 or 6 minutes. Um, and and it like musically it builds up in intensity a little bit, and
Okay.
but it's just a really, I find, like profoundly beautiful, uh almost like quasi celebration of just being like a sentient being,
Yeah, it seems
um
like a trip. Yeah,
yeah, but also there's like an arc of sadness too, because he was like out of his he was exiled from his home country, so there's like
sure.
a little bit of longing to it. I don't know, it's just like a really beautiful simple song,
Dang. Yeah.
yeah,
All right, added.
yeah,
Eh,
peep it, it's good.
Awesome.
Cool.
Uh, so you have a new album coming out under Human Potential.
That is true.
And I know you've previously played drums in the band
Medications, yep.
Medication, sorry. And which is, I brought that festival, it's because that was with members of Farquet who I could totally see playing that festival, right?
Oh sure, yeah.
But it's interesting going from that kind of sound to where you're at now. Um, how do you feel when you were in Medications? How do you feel the sound from that versus what you're doing now? Like what the difference in kind of influences that went into both of those projects? How do you feel like that has shifted, which it seems like a lot?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the main difference is like Human Potential is mine,
Right.
it's all me. Medications was a band, um that was my first band ever.
Okay.
The first guys I ever really played with in like a serious way.
Mhm.
And for the most part it was like Devin Ocampo, who's the singer guitar player.
Yeah.
He composed, you know it, for all intents and purposes, I would say it was his
Sure.
band, um and so just by dint of him being the singer and songwriter, the tone of the band was heavily influenced by whatever
Yeah.
he was listening to or feeling or whatever. Um, so yeah, it just fundamentally is a totally, totally different thing,
Yeah. It seems like Human Potential is definitely more in like, I guess, synth led. I feel like over time it's even gotten poppier a little bit. Um,
That's great to
I-
hear.
yeah, at
Yeah,
least in the especially in the singles that I've heard so far, I feel like
totally.
there's
Yeah.
um I kind of even noticed in the album covers, like you started in black and white and they're even getting colorful. So I feel like that's kind of something I feel like I'm seeing, but
That's maybe an accident. I mean, all
yeah,
the
totally.
all the album art, that's all like family photos.
Yeah.
A couple that are taken by a guy that I made a film about years ago. Um, but yeah, for the most part, that's just like personal archives. But I'm that's great to hear that it sounds poppier, because that's sort of the intention
Yeah.
um, lately. So
I
yeah.
guess going into this album compared to I guess where you were making earlier stuff under Human Potential, like what do you what kind of like I guess influences went into this last album, and I guess what went into writing this one in particular?
Well, this one was a little different because this is the sixth Human Potential record that's going to come out. The previous five, I'd basically made um, just sort of like solitarily, with no sort of, I mean, obviously I like collaborate with people to mix and stuff, but
Mhm.
for the most part I've just like recorded and written everything, and I guess produced, everything myself. For the new one, I had a friend of mine, an old DC friend, actually, my friend Lynn, um, who so we actually started a label, my label, What Delicate Recordings. So we started that together back in like 2007
Mhm.
to put out his record. He put out a record called Eldred Skell's The Rude Staircases Suki Jump, um, which is, to me, it's such a phenomenal record, just like a really weird pop
Yeah.
record. And then he had worked with me mixing a record by another band I was in, Screens, back in Brooklyn. Um, and then we sort of lost touch for a number of years, and I just sort of wanted to do something different. So I was able to sort of track him down. He was living in Mexico at the time, and I was like, "Yeah, you want to come up and produce my new record?" And he was like, "Okay." So he just came up and he lived with me for like 6 months, and
Good.
we just sort of did it together, um, and it was really, for me, it was very beneficial to have a sounding board that I really trusted, and um, I think it, I think it, yeah, I'm really pleased with how it came out. But yeah, in terms of influences, I mean, one in particular, I know there's one song on the record called "You Only Love What You Can Lose," and that was um, just sort of a silly, like almost synth pop, like synth punk song, I guess.
Sure.
And then so when Lynn got here, I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't, maybe he was like, this isn't very good or something. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. And I was like, well, what if we sort of like, you know, filter it through. He and I are both huge fans of Gilberto Gil, who's like a Brazilian artist. This one track in particular, I just like kept hearing this rhythm from that one song. I was like, well, let's try to like filter it through that lens maybe and see what happens. So we just
Mhm.
uh yeah, just interpreted it completely differently. Like
Yeah.
um so that's like one specific influence. But yeah, I don't know, like a lot of XTC for sure.
Hmm.
I was listening to a lot of I mean, Andy Partridge to me is sort of like, you know, just a pop song
For sure.
genius. Um, and you know, I don't understand how he does it, but he has this preternatural pop song instinct that
Hmm.
I longingly strive to um somehow inhabit, but I'm sure I never will. But he's always somebody that I'm looking towards for inspiration for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And too, I feel like I've noticed like there tends to be a like a cinematic quality to some of your music, which makes a lot of sense considering you said you're also a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, Go ahead.
I was just to say, have you ever like, I mean, I'm sure it's like kind of a two-way street, but I'm sure do you like score your own projects or like have you I'm sure there's some influence also from other like maybe film composers that works its way into your music.
Yeah, I mean, I did a film came out in like 2018 called Santuaya, and which I directed. I did the score for that.
Awesome.
Um yeah, I mean, I'd love to do more.
Yeah.
I've done a few just like little short things here and there, but nothing too substantial other than that. But yeah, like for sure. Yeah, I mean Morricone and um, Johan Johansson
I,
and
I was gonna say Johan. I heard a little bit of that in some of
yeah,
the, especially from the
yeah,
Experience
like the
album.
shit that he does, like just the way he bends sound and
Hmm.
makes it move interestingly. I really love.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
Vangelis.
I guess on that subject, being I'm sure you're also a lover of film. Um, do you watch a lot of, do you watch any films like more recent films? Like, is there a movie that's this year so far that you've been really into?
I think what I've seen recently, like in the theater, saw Maxine.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that?
I haven't seen that one, but I've seen the others.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun.
Yeah,
I saw Long Legs.
yeah, it's
Um,
an interesting one.
yeah, um, which was pretty cool. I mean, it was a little um ridiculous, but
Yeah, for
it was
sure.
good. um, I'm trying to think what else. I don't know, man. I feel like that was honestly like the first time I've been to the theater in a really long time.
Totally. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Um,
Well, uh, one thing I'm sure you might be watching is basketball. Are you?
yeah,
I hear you are a 76ers fan. Yeah.
yes. Which is sort of a recent thing. Um, what's interesting because Like, I mean, I grew up playing soccer and like I loved baseball and,
Yeah.
football when I was young. And then, I became less interested as I got older and then, went through college. And then when I moved to DC, none of my friends were interested. I mean, they're like, fuck, they're like, fuck sports. This shit is
Right.
stupid. It's like, okay. And then, so I just never got into it. And even when I lived in New York, a lot of my friends were, huge Knicks fans. And
Hmm.
I was just like, I don't know, it just doesn't interest me. It wasn't until I moved to LA like 5 years ago. One of my good friends here is a huge Warriors fan.
Okay.
And so I started hanging out with him, watching games, and I was like, oh, this shit's super fun. I was like, this is great. And and then I was like, let's see what's up with the Sixers these days. And that was just when um I think when I started watching again, that's probably 2018 or 2019, just like
Sure.
right after I think they had just made the playoffs again. They played the Heat, I think, maybe the first year Embiid had played. Is
I was gonna say, yeah,
that right?
Embiid's getting into the picture a little bit. Yeah.
Because he was hurt for like 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, and then I became a huge fucking dork about it. And like me and my buddy Dan, who was here, like we just watch games all the time. We actually went to Summer League a couple years ago in
Oh,
Vegas.
nice.
Yeah, me, him, my friend Alex, who lives in San Diego.
That's rising in popularity to go to summer league for sure.
It was pretty fun, man. We were actually there was an earthquake
Oh
when we
shit.
were there, like a pretty big earthquake. That I think it was in some part of, or maybe in the desert, like Eastern California, but like
Yeah.
they evacuated the stadium. I remember
Wow.
the Mac, is it the Mac Center? I think it is in Vegas. Yeah, it was pretty wild. Oh, it was the first year. Oh, that's when Zion was playing. So it was
Oh
like
right.
his
Okay.
summer league. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
funny because he had just like, we were watching the Pelicans and maybe it was the Knicks or something. And he was just killing. He was like doing these like monstrous stunts. And then like literally 5 minutes later, it was like a fucking earthquake. It was like,
Oh,
God.
wow. Maybe he caused it a little bit.
Yeah, that's where you're like, dude, this dude. So yeah, it was super fun.
um, cool. So you didn't grow up a Sixers fan. Why the Sixers?
Well, I'm from Delaware.
Okay.
So from Wilmington, Delaware, which is the northern part of Delaware. I'm Nobody really knows where Delaware is, but so where I grew up, it's like 25 minutes from Philly. So by default, if you live in northern Delaware, by default, you're just like a Eagles, Phillies, Sixers, Flyers fan. If you live in southern Delaware, you tend to be more of like a Baltimore
Yeah, gotcha.
person. Um, so yeah, it's just like because we don't have any, because Delaware is like what 700,000 people in the entire state or something.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, it's just location pretty
sure.
much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I guess 2018, yeah, it'd be early in beat times. And you've kind of kept up with it you pretty religiously since.
Yeah, I think that was the first year I kind of started watching pretty intensely, and then, or maybe I started watching the playoffs that year. I was like, oh, this is super fun. And then the next year, I think I got like, the season pass, and I was like, I'm all in this year.
Totally.
Like,
You just got to jump
um,
in.
totally. And that I think that was the year they traded for Jimmy Butler, I want to say, halfway
That
through
would make
the.
sense, yeah. Because it was Jimmy and then it was Harden and now it's Paul George.
Yes. Yes. Which I had the game on. There was a preseason game last night.
Uh-huh.
I just sort of had it on the background. I didn't really watch it. And I just looked it up before we got online and just to see if they had won, which they did, but I didn't realize Paul George hyperextended his knee,
Yeah, a little
which is
bit.
not.
It looked a little ugly, but they're saying
That's
it's
that's an
not.
ominous start
Yeah,
for
they're
somebody
saying
who's injured
right.
all the time.
I know. But yeah, well, we'll see what happens there. I mean, we can get into it in a second here about kind of like how we're looking, how the Sixers are feeling, how you're feeling about this season.
Yeah.
But I guess one more thing before we get into that, I guess is like when you were growing up? Would you like play basketball or anything like that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I always played like pickup games with
Sure.
my buddies and uh yeah, even like I mean, I can't fuck my shoulder up a couple years ago, so I can't
Mm.
really like um shoot well. Um but I always had a thing where like I'm really good at warming up. I'm great at warming up. And
Sure.
then when you get me in like a game situation, I'm terrible. Um
The
but
pressure, man. You can't handle the pressure.
I can't no, I cannot handle it. I think the last time I played was a couple years ago, and me and like three friends went out to Joshua Tree and we played a game. It was in October, but it was still like super hot.
Yeah.
I remember one of my friends, he was we were like, this dude's gonna have a fucking coronary. Because we were all just also like just so out of shape. And this dude was like wildly out of shape. And he was just, I can't do this anymore. And just
Yeah.
like, we're like, dude, do you need to go to the fucking hospital? It was like, it was, yeah, just old men playing, you know.
If you're
And
doing sports in the desert, you got to do it like real early in the morning.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Or yeah, or just not, or just don't do it if you're old.
Yeah, right.
Um, but yeah, I was actually thinking about starting to play again. Like, um, I just haven't done it in so long. And there's a court right down the street from me too. But
Yeah. Yeah, it's one thing I realize is I feel like every single year it's like, oh, I want to keep playing. But it's like it just gets easier and easier to hurt yourself playing.
dude, totally. I mean, that's the thing too. Like, yeah, my body is like my shoulders fucked up, my knees fucked up, I got a fucked up foot. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like one wrong move now, like, and you could be out for like a year. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and that's
it's
where,
it can be dangerous. Yeah.
yeah. Do you play
Um,
often?
no, I wouldn't say I play often. I do like a work league occasionally, and then there's actually a website called indoorhoops.com, and I think it's only in a couple cities, but it's pretty cool because you can just kind of sign up for they organize it with a certain courts are available, and you just kind of reserve your slot for pickup game, and it
Oh, cool.
maxes out at 15 people, so you're doing runs of every other game you're guaranteed to play,
Nice.
so you get it for like 2 hours. It's pretty fun.
Cool.
Um, I think it's only in like New York and Chicago so far, but it might have expanded since then.
Okay. Oh, you're in Chicago?
I am in Chicago, yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Um, but let's talk a little bit more about the Sixers, especially going into this year. I know we already talked about Paul George injury, but before that, how are you feeling about like the team, especially having made that move?
Made the Paul George move?
Yeah.
Um, I well, okay. So when it first happened, or when there was a buzz about it, I was like, don't do it.
Yeah.
Because well, one, it's an exorbitant amount of money that you have to pay him. He's not super young anymore,
Mhm.
injury prone. And
Case in point.
yeah, and then yeah, then like by the time he's making, probably $60 million in 3 years, he's gonna be 37 or something.
Yeah.
Um, I was advocating for the Sixers to trade for Mikal Bridges. That was like I was like, that's the move they should do
Hmm.
because um well, one, he's young, his salary isn't insane.
Yeah.
He's a great defender.
Hmm.
He's a great 3-point shooter. And you don't, and I don't know, like, what do I know? But like, I was like, you don't, just judging by the template set by like the Nuggets, it's like, I don't know if you need like, you know, this fucking power trio
Yeah.
anymore, like get yourself some really good role players. And, we already got Embiid, and who's
Hmm.
the MVP, should have been the MVP or would have been MVP again last year. And Maxi, who's just like the illest
Yeah.
young player out there. It's like, I'm not sure you need all this, you know, big star firepower. Like,
Yeah, I do feel like the super team is kind of dead a little bit. I mean, the Suns haven't delivered on that.
yep.
and everyone is kind of, split off who was previously on a super team. LeBron is on kind of doing his own thing now. I mean, I guess you could still call him a super team having AD and LeBron, but he is also at the end of his career. So
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, let's see. Who was in the finals last year or the conference finals? Indiana
mhm.
and the Knicks.
Knicks, I don't know that I'd call them a super team like Jalen Brunson. I mean, now that they're a pretty strong team, but I wouldn't call them a super team.
But to me, I'm like that. They did it right. Well, I don't, whatever. I don't, I think that cat move was slightly strange,
It
but
was
uh,
strange, but it seems like it was strange because it felt like they valued chemistry by getting all those, Villanova guys, and then
yeah.
they traded one of them.
And they like literally had the entire team, like the
Literally, yeah.
championship team. And my man Dante DiVincenzo is from Delaware.
And he's
Um,
he's solid too. He's a solid
oh, he's
player.
great. He's great. But yeah, that was a strange move to me. But yeah, to me, that was like, oh, they put together a great team before they
Yeah,
they made that trade. And they beat the fucking Sixers last year. You know what I mean? Like they were
yeah.
scrappy and I don't know.
And I
Um,
feel like I can't call the Celtics a super team. Like that's just a homegrown team. They drafted Brown. They drafted
they
Tatum.
drafted well and they got
They
really
traded for
good.
Holiday.
Yeah. And they just got dudes that are, I mean, well, Drew Holiday's great. And
Yeah.
then Derek White is, I don't think anybody thought he would be this good.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, they just like, they built a team smartly, you know,
Yeah.
and didn't waste a bunch of money on, overpaying some
Right.
star who's 35 or whatever.
And then the other one being the Timberwolves, who again, I wouldn't call them a super team. Cat, Gobert, and Edwards. It's just they're well balanced teams.
Yeah, totally.
So I agree with you, and I think maybe the Sixers are still stuck in the trying to make a super team, but
Yeah,
I like their draft pick of McCain though. He's nice.
I haven't really seen him play much.
Mhm.
But from what I've read, everybody on the team super hyped on him.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think there's obviously pressure on the franchise. Like they need to strike while the iron's hot. If they
Hmm.
don't make a move this year, then like who knows what
That's
Embiid
something
can.
I wanted to ask. Like, if it doesn't go well this year, what do you think is going to happen? Is it blow it up? I mean, I can't see them getting rid of Embiid.
No, God no. He just signed an extension, right? I think he
Right.
just signed like multi-year extension. You know, and there's always I mean, the NBA is I think probably part of why I love it because it's such a fucking soap opera
Yeah,
and
oh yeah.
such a drama. And it's like you don't win a championship and then everybody's like up and on, it's like, oh my God, what the and it's
Yeah.
like it's really hard to do that. Like only one team can win, you
Hmm.
know? And I don't know, it's weird, like because the Sixers haven't had, at least since I've started watching them, like they haven't really had any consistency really.
Yeah.
um, except for Embiid. I think he's the only one that's still there.
And
Um,
even on his level, he's struggled with injuries too. And
totally.
have they?
It's
I don't
like
even know if they've truly had an injury-free season. Not just
I
from
don't
him, but like when you look at the whole team, like it's got to all run right.
totally. I mean, I think that's the thing more than anything. It's like you just have to be super lucky
Yeah.
to win an NBA championship. You have to be
Totally.
really fucking lucky. Hopefully nobody gets hurt
Yeah.
and you just yeah, shit just has to turn your way. And yeah, like Embiid's been injured pretty much every playoff series in the past 5 years.
Yeah,
Um,
I felt like 2022 maybe. I thought that was going to be the year for you guys because the Bulls I think were like the 3 seed. That was like the rare random occurrence where like Caruso and Lonzo were both healthy and like they were playing really well, and I was excited about that. But every single time we played the Sixers, you guys destroyed us.
oh, really?
Like we were good except when we played good teams.
Yeah.
And I felt like, yeah, Embiid dropped like 50 on us, and I feel like he was
Yeah.
just unstoppable. I thought that was going to be the year for sure.
Was that the first year with Harden?
Yeah, it was there was some optimism, but it took him a little bit to click.
Yeah. And then
By the end, they started to a little bit.
they started to, and then that was it Miami. They got beat by Miami. Yeah, they got beat by
Hmm.
Miami. That series was atrocious. That
Yeah,
yeah. I think people were sort of cautiously optimistic about Harden, and then after that playoff series, I think most Philly fans are like, "Fuck this dude," because he just like kind of gave up.
I
It was
think
like clearly he just like gave up,
right,
which is very disheartening, especially for people from Philly. Like, you know,
definitely. It's
yeah,
weird to see someone who dominated so much on the Rockets, and now it's like you're every single season you're kind of unsure what he's going to do.
yeah. I just, to me, it's just like his, his temperament is just strange as like an athlete.
Yeah,
Like, you know, like when I grew up playing sport, like I'm sure obviously it's different when you're making $1 bazillion and whatever, I don't know, whatever political machinations are going on behind the scenes and, you know, whatever. It's a completely different world. But
right.
it's just odd as a fan of sports to see somebody so clearly give up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, it just kind of sucks.
for sure.
Um, but
Well, for this season, I guess do you have like a what's your prediction? Where do you think you guys are landing?
I mean, I'd like to say, um, I mean, Christ. I mean, the Celtics are still the team to beat.
Hmm.
Obviously, the Knicks
Knicks are interesting.
are going
Yeah,
to be good. Um, you know, I don't
Pacers.
know.
I don't know. We'll see if they can even replicate that.
Yeah,
That felt a little flukish.
totally. Yeah. The Bucks, I'm not extraordinarily worried about them.
Bucks will be an interesting team to watch, just because sometimes, like we said, it takes a little bit for players to click, and maybe
Yeah.
this is the year that Lillard and Giannis click a little bit.
Although I did they even make any moves? I don't on the off season.
No, Knicks or the Bucks never make any moves other than that Lillard trade. Like I feel like they put out the same team year after year ever since they won the championship.
Yeah. Huh. Nobody
So
left. They basically have the same team.
I don't. I mean, I don't think so. I'd have to double check, but like, I feel like more or less it's the same old roster.
Yeah.
Um, oh, they
I mean,
got
so
Gary
I
Trent Jr., which they've
oh,
they've
he's
had for a
good.
little bit, but
Yeah.
Middleton has been injured and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But they still got Portis. They still got um, Connaughton. So same old
Yeah.
team.
I mean, yeah. My prediction is, I mean, they'll finish top three
Yeah,
for
I think that's
sure.
fair to say.
Yeah. Unless like Cleveland somehow like breaks out and does miraculously, but I kind of
They
don't see
they
that.
fell off last year. They had a nice surprise the year before, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like top three is a safe bet for sure.
And yeah, it'll be, I mean, again, it's like, it's slightly worrisome with Paul George having just hyperextended his knee. And
Yeah,
Embiid still hasn't, they're still ramping him up or whatever that
right.
means. So he's not going to play until the season starts.
Let
Uh,
Maxi go. Like let him do his thing.
that's what I'm saying, man. Like that dude, he's so fun to watch.
Absolutely.
Um, he's just so fucking fast and like, yeah. I don't like it's when he drives through it's almost like death defying. He just like, I don't know
Yeah,
how he does this. He's so quick. And it's like, I feel like there are times when he's just like, his body's just like parallel to the ground. And then he somehow, you know, spins it in and lands on his feet. And it's like, I don't know.
yeah. It's like when
It's
you
crazy.
you see like a sports car driving fast around a corner, and like, oh, he's gonna
Yeah.
crash.
No, totally, man. Totally. So yeah, hopefully he stays healthy, you know. But I like the other pickups like Caleb Martin and
Drummond
Um,
is a nice role player to have.
oh, that's great. That's
Yeah,
crucial, man. Like,
I liked him
yeah.
on, his role on the Bulls was like, definitely off the bench, but
All right.
they're
They got him to
meaningful
the Bulls.
minutes.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. He was definitely, since I've been watching the past 5 years, he was definitely the best backup center that we had.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great to have him back. Just watching that Knicks series last year, oh my God, it's so depressing. Just like watch them get every single offensive board, and like, so hopefully Andre will help.
It's tough. Yeah. Well, you got Caleb Martin too, so
Yeah,
that's a nice boost. I mean, yeah, you guys do feel like you guys are pretty deep, so see
yeah,
what happens.
totally, man. How you feeling
Um,
about the Bulls?
oh man, it's so hard to say, and I feel like people who listen to this are probably like so tired of me like complaining about the Bulls. Um, but I do feel like there is exciting stuff for them. I think the guy that drafted Buzelis is going to be kind of exciting to watch.
Yeah.
Um,
What about that Giddy move?
I don't love it from a personal standpoint, but he has potential still to be a pretty decent point guard, like a pass first type point guard.
Yeah.
Uh, Lonzo's playing tomorrow,
Oh, really?
apparently. Yeah, so maybe he'll be good again. Who knows?
What? So what the fuck? What's up with his knee? Like what?
It was so weird. I don't know the specifics. It was like it was one thing, and then I think it was a training issue, like the trainers like kind of misdiagnosed a little bit. Um, so like they did surgery on one thing, and then it was like a slightly different part of the knee, and then like that affected like a different part of his leg. It's just like it was one thing after another.
Yeah.
Um, but we'll see. I have the lowest of low expectations in him ever actually properly playing, but
Yeah, that's
that
not.
would be a
He's been
nice
out what, like
surprise.
2 years?
Oh, I think more. I think it's been on about 3 years now.
Jesus.
Uh, Pretty crazy, but yeah, I think there's, as usual, there is a chance that they'll be in play-in tournament,
Yeah.
and I think that's kind of the best expectation. I would have much rather just fully tanked, but
Yeah.
I don't know that anyone's going to be able to out tank the Wizards this year.
They're not going to be good at all.
They're going to be really,
Really bad. Yeah.
um, even in preseason games, they might be like the Pistons of this year.
Yeah. I could totally see that.
So
Um,
yeah, well, they have Cooper Flag on lock. It seems like.
yes. 100%. 100%. Did you
um,
guys get anybody for did DeRozan leave in free agency, or did you guys?
he did. Yeah, it was free agency. Um, but Levine still might get traded. Who knows? But he has looked good in preseason so far.
Oh, really? Cool.
You never know.
Nice.
There's always, as a Bulls fan, there's always cautious optimism.
Yeah, dude. Totally.
But oh wait, I'm double checking. I guess DeRozan was technically a trade. He
Oh,
got Chris Duarte and some picks, so not much of a trade.
yeah.
But
Nice.
anyways, the last thing I usually like to do with guests is I play one of two kind of little name association games, and the one I would love to have you do is called Build a Band.
Well,
And the idea is to kind of create a band out of NBA players, kind of give them positions, give them instruments, like what is their sound, like kind of craft like a band.
huh. So I'm giving NBA players an instrument. So
Yeah,
basically, yeah.
yeah, and you're kind of creating whatever kind of type of band. You can do a 9 piece like semi orchestra, like you could do whatever you're feeling.
All right. Well, I'm gonna put Embiid on bass vocals, like was it Glenn Goynes from Parliament, like the
Okay,
really like the bass vocal. So I'll
for
have
sure.
him just be bass vocals. Um, huh. Um, I'll give my man Maxi like uh soprano and alto saxophone.
Ooh,
I feel I feel like, he could, I don't know, just make some light, airy grooves out of that stuff.
are you
Uh,
building a funk band right now?
I think I am, yeah. I think I am. Um, and then um hmm,
Yeah, who's got those like sneaky smooth drumming?
that's that's a good question. Um yeah, like somebody with like, well, I mean, hmm, I could see like Steph Curry having like a nice like almost Clyde Stubblefield kind of light James Brownish touch on the tubs.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Kind of doing like a
so
little shuffling.
yeah, dude, totally. Yes, absolutely. Purdy Shuffle. I'm sure he could handle that. Hmm,
Feel like you need kind of like a little bit of a erratic guitar, a little bit.
yeah. Um, um, I like to have Joker as my sound man. Can I just do that? I just
Yeah,
feel like
just
he just
he
can
would
hold it
make it
down. He's
like
not going to say anything. Just like,
totally. He'll
you
make
can
sure
depend
the
on him.
quality is there.
Yes.
That's his job.
Yeah. He's be like, Joker, can I get more vocals in my monitor? He's like, okay. And then
Hmm.
that's
Yeah,
that's it.
and then
Um,
the set's over and he's already gone.
yeah, he's got he's in an Uber home for sure. Um, uh, yeah, that's good. Like I could see like um, Jimmy Butler sort of being like an obnoxious, noisy, scronky guitar player, just
I
because
could
he's
see
like
that.
contrarian by nature.
Yeah, I feel like honestly, I've over the episodes I've done this, people have put Jimmy in all sorts of genres. So because he is a
Oh, really?
shapeshifter in that way.
Yeah. Um, yeah, him or um
I feel like similarly, Anthony Edwards could do that as well. I feel like in that similar type of approach.
that's true. Although I might I might put him up front as like the front man.
He's he
You
is
know,
he has frontman energy for sure.
yeah, like he would be like a good performer. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. He'll jump into the crowd. He'll do what
Yeah,
he needs to do.
yeah, yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like I
You
need a
got
bass player though.
yeah, because you got drums. You now you have two vocalists, right? You got
I got the bass
it,
vocalist
yeah.
and I got Ant
You
Man.
got Edwards, and then
Um
you got drums. You got
I got
guitar.
sax.
So yeah, you need a bass player, and
Yeah.
maybe if you want to add some funky keys to it,
Yeah. Um
uh, especially in a funk band, bass players gotta
yeah,
make a groove.
I know. Hmm. Man, it's tough.
It is it is a tough one.
My first instinct is to say like Bam Adebayo, but I'm not too confident with that one.
Okay.
Um
I mean,
uh
seeing Bam and Embiid together in that band would be a wonderful sight to see.
yeah. You know what? I feel like I would put Dame on bass
Okay,
because like he's just like solid. He's gonna hold that groove down.
for sure.
And he's like, he'd be fucking serious about the funk. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like he would be he'd hold that shit down. And like,
Sick.
you could depend on him to keep that
Definitely.
bot heavy. Um and
I
then
love it.
keys, yeah. Um
Part of me was thinking it's you get like if you do put like LeBron in there now, like he's got the gray coming in through his beard. I feel like there is a bit of a Parliament vibe going there.
A little bit, yeah. But you know who I'm putting on keys? Nick Nurse.
Ooh, I mean, he does play keys.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know he loves playing guitar. And he held like they had like he hosted like a Prince Day
There was a
recently.
thing I saw him jamming with the bands Mount Joy and I think the Arkells.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, he's a music guy for sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's do that. Let's put Nurse on keys, and I think that's like a pretty solid funk band we got.
That's a pretty robust band there. I feel like
Yes,
I appreciate the multi instrument approach.
totally. Yes,
I feel like the
robust.
only other one that the only person that did that was dude from the band Man Man, and he went for this very avant garde band, and it was like really random instruments that aren't even really instruments, like playing the dumpster, like things like that.
Oh, not who was playing Dumpster?
He had, I believe, Pat Beverly playing the dumpster.
That makes total sense. That's pretty good.
Cool,
Uh,
love it, love the funk band.
yeah,
Um, but that's kind of all I got. I love
cool.
I really enjoyed talking Sixers with you.
Yeah, man.
Um,
Appreciate it.
when is the Human Potential album due out?
November 15th it comes out.
All right. Very excited for that.
Cool.
Make sure you check out Human Potential. But yeah, thanks again for coming on, man. It's been
Yeah, thanks for
wonderful
having me, man.
talking
I appreciate
hoops.
it. Yeah, it was
Best of
fun.
luck to the Sixers this season.
Yeah, we'll see. And to your Bulls.